Hey everyone, welcome to the Happy Flosser podcast. My name is Billy Lunt. I am your host, and I'm here to talk to you about all things dental hygiene to support you on your journey through the dental hygiene program. It's really great to have you with me today. And today's topic is not really anything to do with dental hygiene, but a lot to do with being a successful student or successful clinician. So, no matter who you are, this topic is an important one and really impacts each one of us in different ways. It's called imposter syndrome. And my challenge to you is to foster the imposter. So let's talk about what imposter syndrome is. It's a condition where you don't believe that you deserve success, or you feel that you're only in the position that you're in due to luck or someone else supporting or helping you. And imposter syndrome can show up in many ways in both your professional life and in your personal life. So that's why I think this is really important to talk about. I've heard many students talk about getting into the program and not feeling that they deserved certain things, and even hygienists out in the field who feel like they suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome. And I've experienced imposter syndrome myself sometimes. So I think this is really a key topic to really focus our attention on. And maybe we can dive in and figure out how we can foster overcoming imposter syndrome a little. So someone at work provides you with a compliment or something you have done, and you don't believe them. Or maybe you accept the compliment because your immediate response is to think of all the things that could have gone better with whatever task that person was complimenting you on. Or as a result of somebody giving you a compliment, are you a person who responds by pointing out some challenge or goal that you didn't achieve in the process of doing that task that they complimented you on, rather than just accepting the compliment or believing that you have value? Are you a person that focuses on the imperfections of whatever task they're complimenting you on? Imposter syndrome can really show up in all different ways. Well, maybe somebody compliments you on a physical appearance. Maybe your hair looks really great today, or your sweater. Are you someone who immediately feels embarrassed, or you quickly think, my hair's frizzy today, or the sweater was on clearance, and you try to like minimize the compliment? So, just like with anything else, discovering that you may be uh, having a little bit of imposter syndrome is the first step in identifying it, that it's something that you might be struggling with or you have as a reactionary mechanism in your life. It may not even be something that you identify or realize that might be driving you away from reaching your fullest potential, which is the goal, right? I always talk about reaching your fullest potential and stretching yourself into the uncomfortable zones. And I recognize that imposter syndrome is definitely a barrier to doing that. And so that's why I like to talk about it. It really is a silent seeker of submission. So take it this way. That's the way I look at it. And it can create really limiting beliefs and result in, here's the sad part, never taking action on something that is hidden deep within our spirit in order to move us into the world to become all that we were designed to be. So I find that the very best way to deal with imposter syndrome is to first recognize that it is evident in your thought process in the first place, right? So awareness is the first superpower for you. And I'll share with you, I felt imposter syndrome. I can distinctly remember this exact moment when I left the hospital with my first child. I remember thinking of those nurses and doctors and saying, if they really knew how much I knew about taking care of a child, they would not let me leave the hospital. And I think reflecting back, this is a perfect example of what imposter syndrome really is. Thinking that if others really knew about your inabilities, you would be found out in some way. Can I just say, what I learned when I arrived home with my daughter and somehow managed to figure out how to both feed and take care of her, I quickly realized that the knowing comes from the doing, the action steps. It's the be, do, have theory, right? Starting right at the beginning of every fear, doubt, or lack of belief in oneself. The first thing to do is to just do it, right? I wanted to be a mom. I had to do all the things in order to achieve the goal of having the skills that it took to then have the confidence and believe in myself that no one was going to find out anything, right? That I was taking action. And action is the key component to overcoming imposter syndrome. Now, there's different levels and types of imposter syndrome, all of which promote and trigger some level of, here's the word, anxiety. It's really essential for us to recognize when those thoughts begin to enter your mind, identify them, and then begin the hard work of busting the myths that you're holding on to. I see many perfectionist imposters in my field. Now, maybe this is you. You tend to believe that if what you do isn't perfect, it's somehow a form of failure. And then you begin to doubt your ability, your skills. You become filled with self-doubt and fear. And honestly, this really will limit your ability to grow and thrive in an environment where the competency is set at about 80% for a reason. Perfectionist imposters see failure at 99% or below. And honestly, guys, it can create limits on realistic and achievable goals. And when we set unrealistic expectations on our abilities and skills, it's just setting us up for doom. Now, another form of imposter syndrome shows up with the person who seems to be able to do everything. They focus on overachieving to hide their weaknesses from others. The motivation behind their achievement is to keep others from finding out their challenges. This person works incredibly hard at their responsibilities to go above and beyond to keep others from finding out their weaknesses. Does this sound like something that you might be doing? I'm only sharing this because it's important to discover, because imposter syndrome can kind of hide itself. It has a veil. And so really dissect what is motivating you. Because I'll tell you what, this type of imposter syndrome is exhausting and unsustainable. It's a schedule that can create a mental health crisis or extreme anxiety over time. And quite honestly, it's also limiting and it's no way to live. Imposter syndrome can really take a hold when we begin to compare ourselves to others. And I know I've talked to you guys many times about comparison being the killer of joy. So perhaps we begin to compare ourselves to others, and someone else doesn't need to study as much as we do, or they don't have to ask for help in order to understand something that's really complicated. When you compare yourself to others, it can actually perpetuate your imposter syndrome. The best advice I could give you here is to write down a list of all your strengths, your achievements, and your really good qualities, the things that make you, you. And if you have trouble doing this, ask others to describe you. Ask your friends and coworkers to tell you things that they love about you and why you're friends. This will really help you with this list. These can doing this exercise, I did this exercise. This can help you quiet your inner imposter critic by having some sentences of quality traits that others have helped you develop. This will be so big in helping you change your beliefs about yourself. When your mind is in a nice, healthy place, everything else will feel better. So using these words, these healthy strength words and achievement ideas will help you keep your mind in the right zone. And I've talked about this as well. A mantra can be a successful tool to use to support you when things get really stressful, right? I can do hard things. I am capable. I am smart. I have a pair of pants, and in this pair of pants, I just appreciate whoever designed this pair of pants. They're a pair of dress pants, and they're one of my favorite pairs of pants. And I don't know if they're my favorite pants because of this exact thing. I'm not sure. Inside by the button, there's a little tag and it says, I am smart. So every time I go to put those pants on, or every time I use the restroom, or every time I'm getting undressed, when I unbutton those pants, I can see on the inside by the button, it says, I am smart. And it's just a little tiny mantra that can be used as a tool to support you when things get stressful. So maybe those are my stress pants. I don't know. But it's a great example of things that can really help you when things get stressful and kind of reset your thought process. Another thing you can do is write down a list of actions that you have taken to receive the compliment that someone gives you or the position you achieve at work. Maybe you had to work really hard to learn a new skill. Someone gives you a compliment about your knowledge. Accept it and recognize your value. This can be so hard for some. I want you to believe it when somebody gives you a compliment. Focus on your actions and the time that you've invested in order to develop that skill or acquire that knowledge. These things are real, tangible ways that you can identify the compliment as trustworthy, right? So maybe doing is believing, hearing what people say and really take in the compliments that they give you. The other thing you have to do, and that's the flip side, is to begin to recognize when you set an unrealistic expectation of yourself. Allow yourself room to make mistakes and embrace the learning process. Oh my gosh, know that you will be judged, and that's okay, right? Be unshakably imperfect and keep marching on. Look for opportunities to make those mistakes and grow from them. The peace and joy come when you realize that not one person has it figured out. We are all just doing the best with what we know and where we are. And there will always be someone that knows more or can do a better job. But that's not for you to focus on. That is not what you need to be focused on at all. You owe it to yourself to walk your own journey and to grow your own skills based on who you are. Learn to hear the imposter thoughts and set out to take action to disprove them and to change the conversation that goes on inside your head. It is the most important relationship you will ever build, the one that you have with your very own thoughts. I hope that you can take just a little bit of what I've shared today about imposter syndrome and foster the growth journey that you need to take in order to overcome it. I'm not saying that it's not healthy to have imposter syndrome because sometimes it's a checks and balances. If you have imposter syndrome set in, the first thing to do is to recognize it. The second thing to do is say, is it true? 99.9% of the time, I will tell you, if you can take those two steps, you're going to realize that it's just a thought you're having in your head. And don't get on that thought train and go in that direction. Use the opportunity to grow. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope this was helpful for you. Focus on your goals. Don't let self-doubt get in there. Don't let imposter syndrome set in, and take action. Action is the key antidote to imposter syndrome.